Hi, welcome back to the channel. So, we've done the Romans and their chief adversaries. We're now going to do the Celts. Okay, so these are also Victrix Celts. They call them Gauls, but Celts is really a kind of catch-all term for the kind of tribes that came up from the Middle East, from Asia. They kind of made their way around the Iberian Peninsula and they ended up settling eventually in France and in Britain. And the Celts in Britain call them Britons, and the Celts in France call them Gauls. So you can use these figures as Gauls or Britons or any Celtic tribe you like, really, but not German tribes. Germanic peoples are not Celts. Okay, there's a slight difference between the two different groups. So any kind of Celts from the end of the maybe a couple of hundred BC up until maybe 200 BC, AD rather. You could use these for any of those opponents of the Romans, especially in Roman Britain or in Gaul, okay, in modern day France. So these were part of the same package that I got the Romans with. So I got the Roman army and I got the Celtic army, or the Gaulish army as the Victrix call them. Now these, there was a lot of these. Okay, they're not called the Celtic hordes for nothing, and they fight, in huge units, of kind of fairly loose organised troops. The charge is the big thing with them, and these probably took a little bit longer, and I still probably got 10 or 20 of these still to paint up. So this isn't complete yet. Okay, I finished the Romans, but I haven't quite finished these guys off. But all of these are finished and ready to fight. So who have we got? What kind of troop types have we got? Right, now the classic Celtic warrior. Okay, naked. Okay, but for a shield and a spear and maybe a sword. Okay, and to test his bravery in battle. Really, they weren't berserkers. They weren't insane. But it was part of their, bravery to kind of cover their hair with woad, dye their hair, and then charge into battle naked. Now, it wasn't as stupid as it sounds, because back then, of course, if you were wearing clothes and somebody stuck a spear in you or a sword and they made a wound, quite often the wound would become infected because the clothing you were wearing might be already, covered in animal dung. There's a lot of infection in the water. Okay, so it wasn't as stupid as it sounds. And if you got a slash from a sword and you were naked, that was pretty much a clean wound, wasn't it? You could get it washed out, get it repaired, and carry on next time. So it might seem crazy to fight naked, but it wasn't as silly as it actually sounds. And of course, fighting in Britain as well, brass monkey weather, isn't it? You would be quite cold to do this, but I'm sure after a few minutes of battle you'd have warmed up. So these are the Celtic, I don't know what they called them really. They weren't berserkers. They were just kind of, naked warriors, really, is what we might call them. Okay, so we've got a standard bearer at the back there. But mostly they are spear and shield troops, with maybe one or two with a sword. Also javelin troops as well. So if I was using these in a war game, I would obviously use these as light infantry, as skirmishers, harassing the enemy. I certainly wouldn't use them probably as frontline infantry, especially against Romans. All right, they're not heavily armoured enough. They might be fast. They might be useful, okay, they might be a bit crazy, they might be fanatics, but they're not heavily armoured enough to use as go toe to toe with the Romans. So that's those guys. So on the other side, we've got more conventionally dressed Celts. So these are in trousers and with a shield and a sword or a spear. I've given some of them helmets as well. It's kind of like tribal leaders and elders. little bit of plumage on the top there. Some of them have got a an eagle or a bird on the top. Some have got a boar. I don't know if we can just get in there a little bit. I'll try to get in a bit closer. That's a boar on the top there. You can't quite see it because it's not. There we go. That's not too bad. So golden boar, obviously a symbol of the Celtic tribes. Okay. And yeah, so a little bit more conventionally dressed in their trousers. I'll try to go on through as many different colours as I can with these, just to give them a bit of variety, because they weren't a uniformed army, and in fact the guys in the trousers would probably mix in with the guys with no clothes on as well, so they wouldn't have been as clearly defined in units as I placed them. Right, they would all mix in together. They wouldn't necessarily divide. You guys with the trousers on, you stand over there. You guys naked, you stand over there. It wouldn't be like that. Okay, it would probably be the personal choice of an individual warrior as to how they equip themselves. Also, it would come down to money as well. You know, some would be more affluent than others. So you probably, you know, if you weren't that well off, you'd just have a spear and a shield. If you were fairly well off, you would probably put yourself in chainmail with a helmet. So put these guys in. These guys are in tunics and trousers, but they've also got helmets, and they've also given all of them a yellow cloak as well. Most of them yellow cloak. So there's some kind of you know, some kind of warband that is attached to a chieftain. Okay, so maybe a chieftain's warband there, or maybe personal bodyguard of a chieftain. So they're all kind of belonging to the same tribe. And then over this side we've got the guys who are much more heavily armoured, so they're in the chainmail, spear and a shield or a sword, and they are far more affluent troops. So here we're talking probably about a chieftain with his personal retinue, with his personal bodyguard, chainmail, helmets, swords, as well as spears as well. So these guys would be much more adept on the battlefield, probably much more likely to be able to fight toe to toe with the Romans. Okay, but still, you know, not quite heavy infantry, so rely heavily on the spear, and probably trying to avoid close quarter fighting if they could. Rely on the charge and retreat to try to break the enemy. So those are more high ranking. Again, we've got the boar symbol there. Let's pick one up. There we go. Just to remind you, these are all Victrix again. Victrix. They call them Gauls, but you could use them for ancient Britons, any Celtic tribe. They're Celts basically. Use them for Spanish, Iberian, Celts, any of the Celtic tribes across the mainland Europe and Britain. Okay. I got a bit of an accident with the leather on some of them, in that I mixed together contrast paints, yellow contrast paints with brown, and I got a really nice kind of light leather colour on some of the leather. There you go, you can just about see it there. You've got the various shading on the leather. I got lucky, basically. I just got lucky. Again, another boar on the helm there, golden boar. Okay, Celtic mythology. Okay, all the shield transfers are Little Big Man Studios again. Very easy to apply. Don't be scared of them. They're really, really good, and they set the models off an absolute treat. Okay, I don't think I would ever use anything else now. And all Victrix again. Now, so got 4 different types of infantry. At the front here, we've got a standard bearer. Okay, he's got a kind of cockerel as a standard. I don't think they would care too much about standard bearers. They certainly wouldn't have flags and things like that. And we've got a priestess, kind of a druidic priestess with a head of a Roman. And she's just taken a Roman's head, or maybe another Celtic tribe, and a male priest, druid as well, the head on a spear. Okay, and there's a lot. I've got a lot of these. There's a lot in the packs. It's probably about 10 altogether, all very similar. So I haven't done all of them because they would just all end up looking the same. So I might do them eventually, but I don't. You don't need to do all of them. Okay. So, and then finally, horseback. No, not finally. Sorry, one but last finally. Celts on horseback. So the horse troops. Now I'm not sure how common these would have been used. You know, horses were pretty rare, and trained horses would have been even rarer. But also, I've given some of these guys cloaks as well. Okay, so that looks nice there, doesn't he? Nice shield. Shields are beautiful. And I've given these guys all smaller round shields, obviously, because they are on horseback. And the tribal leader there with his plumes. Okay. Charging in. Again, not 100% sure how the Celts would use horsemen. They're all quite heavily armoured, aren't they? They're nobles probably, chieftains, sons of chieftains, and retinue of chieftains. But they'll probably use them in the same way as the Romans used them, as light troops, being used to harass the enemy. That was a Roman film on TV, I just noticed. Okay, right, okay, and then finally, over on this side, Celtic chariots. Okay, I have showed these in a previous video. Okay, so there's you get 3 chariots in the box, or in the packet. Okay, all Victrix stuff comes in plastic wallets. Okay, so 3 chariots. And I tried to make these a little bit different. I put a female druid in one. Okay, black and white horses. I put a male chieftain in another. Okay, a bit more armoured. And I put a male druid in the third one. Okay, they've all got, as you can see, the heads of their enemies hanging from the sides of the chariots. Okay, so I tried to make the chariots reasonably colourful as well, so sort of greens and blues. Give them a bit of a differentiation as well. Chariots were used fairly widely by the Celts. We're talking about a landscape in which, we're talking about pretty much southeast England, really, and the middle of the south of England, so it's fairly flat down there. So chariots would be useful in battle, but I would probably use them more as kind of command units in a large scale battle. I would never be able to buy and assemble enough chariots for an entire army. That would be crazy. Okay, right, so those are my Celts then. They're my army that are going to basically, they will take on the Romans. Let's have a look at the cavalry and the elites, the chieftains, retinues, the yellow cloaks. Okay. The for some reason I must have read somewhere about yellow and yellow cloaks being a thing for Celtic warriors, and for some reason it just in my head it was just like, well, they all wore the same colour cloak as some kind of almost a religious designation, either religious or tribal, and so I just put them all in yellow, because just to differentiate them from the Romans really, because the Romans are all in purple and red and green. Okay guys, so hopefully you've enjoyed seeing some of the stuff that I did. So this was basically my part B of the Ancients project from last year. So I finished these all in 2022 as well, and probably got a couple more projects that I can share with you that I did in 2022 later on. So again, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing some of the stuff I've done in 2022, and remember to subscribe if you're watching for the first time. Let's try and get to 1,000 if we can, and hit the like button. All of it helps, and any comments in the descriptions, love to respond to comments, so just let me know what you think. Okay, again, have a happy new year, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.